Welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here and always a pleasure to have you out there in the audience. I have what you might call a special guest. He's been on a number of times before in the past, and I met him actually last Thursday at a neighborhood meeting where he gave a presentation, very interesting presentation, and it's about question 4. Now question 4 will be on a ballot in November. And I'm going to have my guest explain what question 4 is. So, welcome, Senator Michael Rodrigues.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. It's been a long time since I've been on the show. Thank you for having me back.
Well,
you know, we've always had fun together. I've always enjoyed our conversations, and it was good seeing you at the South End Neighborhood Association with Representative Sylvia last week, and
yep.
We engaged in some conversation about question 4, the legalizing the recreational use of marijuana.
Now that question will be on a ballot come November.
That is correct.
So people out there, be aware. There's, I believe there are 4 questions. So there's 3 others. Be aware what the questions are. You should read the question first before you get into the ballot box. A lot of that information is available online or elsewhere, so that when you get in there, you won't kind of stumble around, you know. And,
sure. Sure. Let me just talk a little about these questions. You see these ballot questions that we all get to vote on. Last year was the big question was to require paid sick days for all employees. And in Massachusetts, our Constitution does allow that if citizens wish to take action in their own hands where the legislature is not acting on a particular issue, they can follow a process, go out and collect the prerequisite number of signatures, and get a question on the ballot to be considered. These are binding questions, so if this question does pass, it will be law in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
So it's not an advisory type question. It's binding.
Exactly, Richard. It's not advisory. It's a binding question. It's a very detailed bill. I believe it's 26 or 28 pages. It'll be on the ballot. I'm sure not many people are going to read all 26 or 28 pages.
Why? That's question 4?
That's question 4, yes.
Why is it so long?
Excuse me, because it passes a very complex piece of legislation. It will legalize the recreational use of marijuana and spells out in some detail how that legalization will be regulated, how it will be taxed, what type of products would be available for sale on the streets. So it goes in quite detail.
Usually you have a little synopsis. Is that correct?
There will, I would assume that both sides, the pro and con side, the proponents and opponents, get to draft a synopsis that the Secretary of State approves. So it'll be a brief summary, but basically it would allow recreational marijuana to be sold legally to anyone over the age of 21 years old.
Over 21?
Yeah, 21.
Not 18?
Not 18, it's 21.
So you can buy cigarettes when you're 18?
You can buy, well, the Massachusetts State Senate passed the bill this year that increased the age to purchase tobacco to 21.
Okay,
but it did not pass in the House, so it did not. But the movement is, and I believe 108 communities throughout the Commonwealth have passed local ordinances that increase the purchasing age of tobacco products from 18 to 21.
Oh, I see. Has
not happened yet here in the city of Fall River. But knowing that this was coming a year ago in January, at the beginning of the last legislative session, January of 2015, Senate President Rosenberg established the Massachusetts State Senate Special Committee on Marijuana. And he asked that I serve on this special committee because in the Massachusetts State Senate, I serve as the chair of the Revenue Committee. And the Revenue Committee is the Committee on Taxation.
That's the money.
It's the money one. We, yes, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm the tax man. So anything, any pieces of legislation that has anything to do with taxes, whether it's property tax, income tax, sales tax, gas tax, you name it, has to come through my committee. Over 800 bills this past legislation.
So anytime a bill is before the representatives, senators, etc. Before that bill can go anywhere, it goes to your committee? Is that
if it has anything to do with taxation.
Oh, all right.
So part of the momentum behind filing this referendum question was to legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana like similar to alcohol.
Okay, so it has a tax element.
There is a tax element.
And that's why it got before you.
Well, no, because it did not come before me because this did not follow the legislative process. This is going to be enacted through a referendum process.
All right.
So it bypasses all the legislative committees, the review, the amendments, the debate. It goes right to the voters for them to vote on it.
That's interesting. I'm sure people out there are going to notice that it bypasses the basically the legislative process, and if it passes, the question passes, it becomes law.
Yeah, yes.
Without any input, in a sense, from the legislators.
That is correct. That is correct.
That's interesting. Now let me ask you this.
Yep.
It's a very controversial issue. How does something like this even get started? Because it wasn't. Didn't you mention that many legislators are opposed to it to begin with?
Yes. The reason that it's being pursued through the referendum process is because there's not a majority of state legislators.
It could never get through the legislative process.
Currently, the vast majority of state representatives and state senators are opposed to the legalization of the recreational use of marijuana. So they go around us. There is a process. They did not violate. They follow the rules.
Constitution.
They follow the Constitution, and they have it before the voters.
So there's some powerful, you might say, interests.
Well, there's big money.
Big money.
Yeah, big money, because this could be a billion-dollar industry, an industry that, by the way, only operates in cash, no checks, no credit cards, no debit cards, no banking financial institutions, because marijuana is still considered a Class 1 narcotic on a federal level, and financial institutions cannot participate in the business of marijuana. Even medical marijuana
all right,
today.
so when you say financial institutions...
Banks or credit unions.
Oh, yeah.
So banks and credit unions are either FDIC insured, they have federal insurance dollars.
So these people can't open checking accounts?
No.
Joe's Marijuana Shop?
Joe's Marijuana Shop is going to sell you their marijuana for cash, keep the cash, pay their employees in cash, pay their taxes in cash, pay their electric bills and heating bills and everything in cash. It's very, very difficult to keep track of all this cash. So the committee that I was appointed to by the Senate President last January, this past January 2016, went out to Denver, Colorado. We spent 4 days in Denver because Colorado 2 years ago did legalize the recreational use of marijuana. So we wanted to meet and hear firsthand from lots of people in Denver. We met with public health officials, public safety officials, school and education officials, the local mayor's office in Denver, the state government in Denver, legislators, and to be honest with you, Richard, I was very agnostic about the issue when I first heard about it.
Let me ask you one question.
Yeah.
People in Colorado actually approved it through the legislature?
No, through a referendum.
A referendum, all
Through
right.
the referendum. It's been passed in 4 states, all through the referendum process. It failed another state through the referendum. Ohio, it failed, but it passed in Colorado, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska.
Now, in Ohio, did they get the required number of signatures?
Yes, it was on the ballot.
When it was on the ballot, the people said no.
People said no. And after my visit to Denver, Colorado, I am asking people to vote no on the question here in Massachusetts. It really opened my eyes. What I came away realizing that this question on whether or not to legalize the recreational use of marijuana has nothing to do with a responsible, consenting adult's ability to go home and smoke a joint. Because guess what? You can do it already.
Personal
Marijuana.
use of marijuana?
Well, personal use of marijuana, although illegal per se, has been decriminalized.
All right, so it's just a...
It's a civil offense of which you ask any law enforcement official, they'll tell you they don't like issuing, and they don't issue civil offenses because, you know, there's a very little penalty, and it's a pain in the neck to go to court and everything for a civil offense.
So most people, just about everyone gets a free ride.
It pretty much gets a free ride, and we've already legalized the medical use of marijuana because I do agree that there is real scientific medical benefits for some, not everyone, for some, whether it's treatment of epilepsy or PTSD from our veterans, that marijuana has a therapeutic benefit to some.
All right, when you say it's...
But that's legal.
Legal. All right, so someone sitting out there says, you know, I like to get myself a whole pack of joints so I can sit around at night and puff my brains out.
They have to go to the doctor. They go to a physician.
Any doctor?
There's one physician that specializes in it because, once again, it's a cash. So in Fall River, for $400 cash, you go to this one particular doctor. I think he's on North Main Street. He will examine you. You go through an examination.
What does he have to find?
Well, I guess if you can claim that you are stressed, that you have anxiety, that, you know, and he examines you, and then if he feels fit, if he feels that marijuana would be therapeutic and beneficial for you, he issues you a license. It's not a prescription.
A license?
A license to purchase medical marijuana. That's already legal in Massachusetts. But you know what's really scary?
And where do you purchase this now?
Through licensed dispensaries. There is none in Bristol County yet, but there's one, I believe, opening in Freetown, in the Freetown-Fall River border. There's going to be a grow dispensary facility.
Online? Can you order maybe online?
No, I don't think you can ship it.
You have to show that license?
You have to show that license and go to a secured facility dispensary, yes. Remember, it's a Class 1 narcotic. But, so this question is not about an adult's ability.
If the federal authorities say it's illegal,
yes,
why are these dispensaries allowed to open?
They're
in violation of federal law.
You are in violation of federal law, and the Federal Department of Justice, the DOJ, issued what's known as the Cole, C-O-L-E, Cole memo to states that have legalized it, and basically told the states that as long as you are regulating the product in such a way that meets certain guidelines, like trying to prevent it from getting in the hands of children, to controlling it in some way, we're not going to come down on you. Now, that could all change with the new president and the new Department of Justice, but currently, that's the game. The playing field that is happening now in the United States. But what's really scary, when I came away from Colorado after meeting with all these individuals, hearing that edibles, for instance, that over 50% of marijuana consumption in Colorado is done through edible products because they grow marijuana.
So they actually eat the whole thing?
Well, they extract the THC. They grow.
No, but when you say edibles, someone just eats the thing, like
eats it in
a raisin, like
a raisin, a cookie, a brownie, gummy bears. I've seen THC infused salad dressing.
Oh, wow.
So what they do is they grow the plants, they harvest the plants, or just the buds on the plants. That's where the THC is concentrated.
And that's the narcotic.
That's the psychoactive ingredient. They're called cannabinoids. Psychoactive cannabinoids in marijuana is THC. They harvest that. It goes through a process. They extract the THC out of the plant. It's transformed into like a gel. It looks like honey. I saw Petri dishes full of this. With this gel, they can infuse it in any sort of food product. They can crystallize it so it can be, they call it vaping, where they take a crystal chip of this, they put it in an electronic cigarette machine. You know those e-cigarettes you see people smoking now?
Oh, yeah.
And you push a button, I don't know how they work, but they ignite. It it ignites the crystal, and you can ingest it that way.
Okay, so you're breathing in the vapor?
Right, breathing in the vapor, the THC, it gets into your bloodstream and you get high.
So someone could be sitting in, or standing, in a lounge area outside there and smoking one of these e-cigarettes because
you won't smell it. There's no odor attached to it.
They seem to be, I'm not going to say prevalent, but I've noticed them in some places where, you're not allowed to smoke, but someone's fooling with this e-cigarette.
Right.
So actually, that could be loaded up with marijuana.
Yeah, you could. I don't know if that product is available on the street. One of the arguments that the proponents will make is that the underground black market is proliferating, and we should get a handle and control this and tax this product so that we can use these tax revenues for public safety, public education, for parks, for all the good things that we use tax dollars for.
Rehabilitate marijuana smokers.
Rehab opioid, your whole opioid crisis. Let me tell you the holes in that argument that I discovered, that I came to the conclusion. First of all, the tax rate that's proposed in this law is 3.75% on top of the normal sales tax of 6.25%. So that's a 10% total tax rate. In Colorado, it's 30%. In Washington, it's 40%. In Colorado and Washington, they are barely breaking even, they might net a little bit of extra revenue, a little bit, because of the cost of administering and enforcing the regulatory programs. This doesn't come free. All the new regulatory agencies and enforcement.
There's got to be oversight of.
There's got to be oversight.
Watch all this.
And we got to pay for it. So the tax rate is grossly inadequate. It's going to cost the Commonwealth of Massachusetts taxpayers to administer and regulate this law. We're not going to make any money on it.
So the tax argument by the proponents is not valid.
In my opinion, it is grossly inadequate revenue because of the cost. So the bill creates a whole new, what they call a Cannabis Control Board under the Massachusetts State Senate. They're the entity that's going to regulate, because it is going to be a controlled product, like alcohol. Alcohol, we have the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. For marijuana, we're going to have the Cannabis Control Commission under the Treasurer's Office. That all costs money. All those people, those jobs, the regulations,
and then
the enforcement.
they have hearings. People are charged with violations. They come before a board. Some of these boards are almost like local. The Board of Health, on a regular basis, brings people before them.
Right. There will be local licensing authorities for because local municipalities would have the option of whether or not to license any of these officials, any of these facilities within their border. We've already voted to allow it in Fall River for medical marijuana, so they're going to be the first avenue for dispensing recreational marijuana. So, it's not about, like I said, about an adult's right and ability to go home at night and smoke a joint. It's about big business. Because they can do that already. They do that already. It's all about big business and the commercialization of the product. And it is big business.
No, they'll be able to advertise in the sense.
Oh, yeah.
So, in other words, try to draw younger people into, have a joint at night, it doesn't bother you.
Richard, you probably remember in the late 50s, early 60s, tobacco, when you would have guys like Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams.
Oh, the Marlboro Man.
The Marlboro Man. It's tobacco. There's no health problems to tobacco. Well, it's good for you after a baseball game.
To relax.
Ted Williams likes to have a nice Camel or Marlboro or Winston or whatever the brand is, cigarette after the game. I remember magazine ads where you see someone, an alleged physician, maybe it was a physician in a white doctor's coat saying, there's no health problems with tobacco use. 60 years later, we know that's a big bunk, and it's all about big tobacco, big business. Marijuana is the same way.
And marijuana is still tobacco.
Well, it's a plant. It's a plant. If you smoke it, you can ingest it by smoking it. You can ingest the active ingredient that gets you high, THC, can be ingested in many ways.
Well, when you smoke tobacco in the form of cigarettes, cigars, etc.,
right,
there's a chance of getting cancer.
Right.
Now, can this also develop from?
I would assume so. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any studies that actually provide a scientific correlation. But we do know that in Colorado, 50% of marijuana is ingested by eating it because people don't like to smoke it. They don't like to smoke and ingest smoke into their lungs. That's caused all kind of problems.
Well, it's a quicker form, too. I mean, you could carry a couple of cookies in your pocket. You're walking into a restaurant.
Yeah.
You feel a little jittery for some reason. You
well, it's not quicker because it takes up to 2 hours.
Oh, it does.
When you eat it, it takes up to 2 hours for it to get into your bloodstream. It's got to go into your stomach, break down, and get into your bloodstream. So what's happened in Colorado is that there's been a 600% increase in the number of emergency room admissions for over-ingestion of marijuana. Oh. You can't overdose. People say, oh, you can't overdose. Yeah, you can. You can't get hooked on it. Yes, you can. It's a psychoactive ingredient.
And you can go up the ladder, too, they say.
Some people say it's a gateway drug. Other people say it's not a gateway drug. But what happens is, especially for the inexperienced marijuana consumer, they eat a cookie, a brownie, or whatever they eat. 20 minutes later, they're like, I don't feel anything.
No effect.
No effect. I'm going to eat another one. I still don't feel anything. I'm going to eat another one. Next thing you know, they all kick in. You end up in the emergency room. 600% increase in the first year. Colorado right now is absolutely having buyer's remorse. There was an article in the Boston Globe yesterday that said many counties in Colorado are trying to start their own initiative petition to ban it, to change the law. Because as a legislator, I absolutely have the ability of amending or striking or discarding a law passed by referendum. We change and modify and amend laws all the time in the legislature, but we are very reticent. I can tell you that I will not take the lead on changing the law if it's passed by the voters.
All right. When
people speak, you know, we will do the best we can to try to regulate it and maybe tweak it around the edges, maybe pass a law that increases the tax rate so at least we break even so we don't lose money, so we're not taking money away from Fall River Public Schools to give to the marijuana regulators.
You mentioned an interesting thing, and that is the gathering of the signatures, which many thousands.
60,000.
Could be gathered by people who have no vested interest in the outcome of the vote, but they're doing it as some sort of a part-time job.
Yes, there are paid signature gatherers. There's been a preponderance. You notice that more and more of our elections have these referendum questions because the proponents, if they have enough money and the marijuana industry has the money, they will pay people to gather signatures. So they'll go to the mall.
10 cents a signature.
Sir, are you a registered voter in Massachusetts? Yes. Would you mind signing this petition? What's this petition? This petition only gets this question on the ballot for people to vote on.
Okay.
And, people don't want conflict. They don't want to be confrontational.
They're in a hurry.
All right, I'll sign it. It doesn't mean anything. It only gets it on the ballot, and you get paid 10 cents, 5 cents. I don't know what they get paid. They get paid. They get paid to gather signatures. It happens all the time. So nothing illegal.
These are not true believers.
No. And even the proponents behind this question, they are somewhat true believers, but most of it is big business.
It's money.
It's money.
Now let me ask you this: cash business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult enough for the government and others to regulate business that's done in the form of checks.
Yeah.
And other means of, transacting money business.
Right.
Cash has always been noted as the cigar box under the desk.
We had a meeting.
So, in other words,
where do they keep this cash?
Well, the taxation element becomes very
difficult to prove. It's on a system. There's no paper trail.
No, so, I mean, the state of Massachusetts, as far as taxes on a cash basis industry,
Yeah.
the tax authorities in the state of Massachusetts, I'm sure, have enough trouble trying to get the taxes from people who do business with paper, but yet hide.
Right.
That's unusual. You know, that is
the
incredible.
regulators, the Department of Revenue in Colorado, they just shake their head. They say, we do the best we can, but we don't have enough auditors, we don't have enough regulators to really control everything. They try to keep track of the number of plants that each, because it's a completely vertically integrated system in Colorado.
You got the illegal product.
You've got the black market product. You got the
and that comes through the back door. It's a cash business.
Right.
And no one's counting that because it's snuck in.
Right.
Yeah, it's
very, very difficult. There's a lot of problems, which is why my mind, I don't want to say my mind changed when I went to Colorado. My eyes became open, and I paid attention to the nuances. And when I left in January, I was like, hey, it's probably going to happen. The polls at that time had it passing overwhelmingly. Since then, the polls have flipped, and the polls now have it about 50-50, whether or not it passes. Because people are paying attention. People are saying, how about these edible products? You know, the school officials in Colorado saying, little Mikey comes to school with a snack. We don't know what's in that snack.
Yeah, you think, like the prosecutors' offices throughout the Commonwealth, district attorneys, police departments, health officials.
Oh, they're all opposed. All the statewide organizations of Mass Police Chiefs Association, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, of school superintendents, of public health officials are all opposed to this question. But they don't have the money, Richard. I call legislation by referendum, golden rule legislation. He who has the gold makes the rules. They'll take a 28-page, very complicated piece of legislation to legalize a controlled substance, and they'll narrow it down to a soundbite or a bumper sticker. And they'll have the money to market that. We've seen it before.
And it goes against this whole business of many decades now. Say no to drugs.
Right.
It's like a slap in the face.
Well, we are suffering, not just Fall River, but the entire northeast United States suffering with this opioid crisis. 30, 40 years ago, heroin was around. It was primarily in urban areas of minorities and color, and it was a ghetto thing. It's everywhere now, Richard. It's in the lily white suburbs. It's in the affluent. It's affecting family members of very responsible members of our society, and it's a crisis. Where is
this all leading? And you've been around in the legislature for a long time now. Where is this all leading? There doesn't seem to be any turnaround.
In the opioid issue crisis, I'm hoping the latest statistics will show that overdoses are reducing. I'm hoping. There's certainly a lot of effort and focus on preventing, because oftentimes it starts with prescription drugs. It starts with the new high-strength Percocets and Oxycontins and stuff that's legally prescribed to someone for pain management, and then it's addictive, and people get addicted.
Okay,
Oh, here we go. Already, how?
I just got the signal. He's right. We're right at the end. Senator Michael Rodrigues,
Richard, thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions, reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation.
Thank you out there for watching, and I'll see you next time.